When I first moved into apartment 203, it wasn't because I loved the place. It was because I had nowhere else to go. After my breakup and losing my job in the same week, this small, forgotten building at the edge of the city felt like it would take me in. The walls were old, the air smelled faintly of varnish and damp plaster, and the floor creaked even when I stood perfectly still. But it was quiet, and I needed quiet more than anything. The first thing I noticed when I walked in was the mirror. A tall, antique mirror that stretched from floor to ceiling on one side of the living room, framed in dark, carved wood that almost looked alive, the way the pattern curved like twisting vines and faces. The landlord told me it came with the apartment. I remember joking that maybe it had ghosts in it. He didn't laugh. He just said, "Keep it clean," and left. For the first few nights, I barely looked at it. I was too tired. I'd come home, eat leftovers, watch something dull, and fall asleep on the couch. Then one night, while brushing my teeth, I noticed that my reflection seemed delayed. Not by much, maybe half a second, but enough to make me stop. My arm dropped slower in the reflection. My eyes blinked differently. I stood there for minutes trying to repeat the same motion, but the more I focused, the more wrong it looked. I laughed nervously and went to bed. The next morning, the mirror was spotless. Too spotless. I hadn't cleaned it, but it gleamed like someone had polished it overnight. I ignored it, chalked it up to my imagination. But the same night I saw something new. A faint smudge in the glass, shaped like a handprint from the inside. After that, I started hearing things. Not loud enough to be sure, but enough to keep me awake. Faint murmurs, whispers that seemed to crawl from the mirror late at night. They always stopped when I turned on the light. Once, around 3 a.m., I thought I saw movement in the reflection, like someone walking behind me. But when I turned, there was no one there. My heart raced so fast I could hear it in my ears. I began leaving the lights on all night. My electricity bill doubled, but I didn't care. Every time the lights went out, I felt someone else was awake with me. Every night I tried to sleep on the couch facing away from the mirror, but I would wake up facing it anyway. One weekend, I decided to record it. I set my phone to face the mirror before sleeping and left it running overnight. The next morning, I watched the footage. For the first hour, nothing happened. Then, at 3:13 a.m., something moved. I watched as I walked across the room, except I was visible on the bed, asleep. My reflection turned toward the camera and smiled. I deleted the video immediately. I told myself it was a glitch, a trick of light, a dream. But deep down, I knew better. Days later, I came home from work and found the mirror uncovered. I never uncovered it. The white sheet I'd thrown over it was folded neatly on the chair, like someone had been polite enough to put it aside. I backed away and felt a chill run down my neck. That night I dreamed of water. Dark, still water that reflected a sky with no stars. I was standing on the surface, looking down, and I saw my reflection smiling up at me. Then it whispered something. I couldn't hear the words, and grabbed my ankle. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. I decided to move out. I packed my bags that morning. But when I opened the front door, I froze. The hallway wasn't there. Instead, it was just another version of my apartment. The same furniture, the same layout, but darker. Every surface was covered in dust except the mirror, which gleamed like new. My reflection was already there, watching me. It tilted its head. Then it spoke in my voice, soft and calm. "You finally saw it, didn't you?" I stumbled back, slamming the door shut. I spent the rest of the day hiding in the bedroom, afraid to breathe. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. When I finally stepped out in the morning, everything looked normal again. Hallway, lights, neighbors, everything. I convinced myself it had been a hallucination. Maybe I was overworked. Maybe I needed help. But the mirror had changed. The reflection of my apartment looked a little too perfect. A cup missing from my counter was visible there. The book I'd dropped last night wasn't. Like the world inside the glass had continued while mine lagged behind. The landlord stopped by that afternoon to collect rent. When he saw the mirror uncovered, he looked pale. "You shouldn't stare too long," he muttered. That mirror belonged to Dr. Alistair Dyer, the man who built this place. He said it showed more than your reflection. It showed what you could become. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. Later that night, I searched the name online. The results shocked me. Dr. Dyer was a psychologist and occult researcher who disappeared in 1936. According to an old newspaper, he believed mirrors could store fragments of consciousness. His final experiment was described as a success that no one survived. The article had a photo of him standing beside a tall, ornate mirror, the same one now standing in my living room. From that moment, everything changed. The reflection became more alive. Sometimes it smiled when I didn't. Sometimes its lips moved even when I stood still. And sometimes, when I turned away, I'd see movement in the corner of my eye, my own shape stepping closer. I started marking days on the wall, trying to track what was real. My sleep blurred into waking. Once, while brushing my teeth, I saw blood running down my reflection's arm. Not mine, its. I dropped the toothbrush and ran. The next morning, there was blood on the floor, but none on me. One evening, I decided to end it. I grabbed a hammer and swung it at the glass with everything I had. But instead of breaking, the surface rippled like water. My hammer vanished through it, swallowed whole. Then a hand came out, pale, trembling, identical to mine, and grabbed my wrist. I screamed, pulling back, but it held tight. The touch was cold, not icy, dead. Then I saw its face. My face. It whispered, "It's your turn now." Before I could react, the world inverted. The air turned thick and I couldn't breathe. My body was dragged forward like gravity had flipped. I felt myself falling through the mirror into darkness while someone, stepped out in my place. When I woke up, everything looked the same, except I wasn't in the apartment anymore. I was behind it. On the other side of the glass, my reflection, my other self, was moving around, living my life. Eating, talking, laughing, pretending to be me. I tried screaming, banging, waving, but it never looked up. It was like I didn't exist. But sometimes, when it was alone, it would look directly at me and smile. The same calm smile it gave before taking my place. Now I understand the whispers. This mirror isn't haunted. It's a trap. A collection of stolen lives, reflections traded for reality. I can see others too in faint layers behind me. Shadows of people, faces frozen in the glass. They're watching, waiting, whispering. Sometimes when the lights go out in the apartment, I see the next tenant arrive. Curious eyes, gentle hands brushing the frame. I want to warn them, to shout, to beg them not to touch it. But all I can do is watch as they look into the mirror, admiring their reflection. And when they lean close enough, I feel the pull again. The faint ripple in the glass, the hunger waking inside it. The mirror is patient. It waits for loneliness, for despair, for someone desperate enough to look too long into themselves. That's when it decides. That's when it trades. And tonight I can already see her face, the new tenant, staring too long, smiling softly, just like I did. My reflection is moving again. I can feel it coming closer. Maybe this time, it's my turn to step out. If you ever see a mirror that feels too alive, that seems to breathe when you're near, don't stare. Don't touch. Don't even look back. Because once it learns your reflection, it never forgets.